And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Today, the game we're talking about is called...
Castle Panic.
Alright, let's try that again. Okay. Today, the game we're talking about is called...
Castle Panic!
Castle Panic is a semi-cooperative game. Actually, let's just get this out of the way. It's a cooperative game. They just included some way to have one person win overall. Whoever kills the most monsters, blah, blah, blah. Okay. It's a cooperative game that's made for kids, I think, or families more than anything else. It's very simple on how the game works, but that does not mean it's a bad game, and it does not mean that it's not challenging. It's actually quite challenging. It's hard to beat, and it's a lot of fun, and visually, it's a really neat treat. Monsters are attacking your castle, and you must fight them off together. Or you can play with an overlord where one person controls the monsters. I guess I should mention that that's available in the game. I don't find that nearly as interesting. It's there in case you get really good at beating off the monsters. Have someone play the overlord. But for the most part, we're going to talk about the cooperative point of this game. Okay, here's the board. You can see in the middle, we have a castle. There's 6 different walls. There are 3-dimensional walls and the little plastic stands put here. And then inside that, we have the tower. And then we have these colored rings. We have blue, red, and green. Each ring is split into 2 sections. And in that sections, there are rings going around it. We have the swordsman ring, the knight ring, the archer ring, and the forest ring. 6 monsters start on the board, 3 goblins, 2 orcs, and a troll. You can decide which rings to put them in. Each player draws a certain amount of cards to start the game. However many that is depends on how many players. So let's say Melody and I are playing here. We would each get 6 cards to start the game. The very first thing a player does on his turn is he draws up to his hand limit. So if you have less than 6 cards, for example in this game, I would draw up to 6. I then am allowed to discard a card if I don't want it, and to draw a card in its place. And then I am also allowed to make 1 trade with another player. If there's 6 people playing the game, you can make 2 trades. But you have to both agree to the trade. You actually have to give each other a card. So I say, Melody, I'll give you a good card if you give me, I need an archer. You got any archers? She says yes. So I trade her a good multicolored knight for an archer. Alright, so now I can play as many cards as I want. I want to attack monsters, but I can only attack them with a card that matches the color and the ring they're in. So hurrah, I have a green archer. So I shoot at this goblin. Now this goblin has 1 hit point, so he's dead. Let's say I instead shot at the orc. The orc would not be dead, but we would rotate him to show that he only has 1 hit point left. If he shot again, he's dead. So let's say I shoot the orc. I shoot him, he goes to a 1, and then I play an any color archer. Yeah! And shoot the orc, and he's dead. Now, I don't have many other cards, but fortunately I have this card called Tar, which lets me take this Tar token. This token is put onto I'll put on the troll, because trolls are nasty. And that monster won't move this turn. Now, after I play the cards, all monsters move forward 1 ring. Da-da-da, except for the troll, because he's tarred. Ha 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 ha. Now, once the monsters have moved forward, then I'm going to draw 2 more monsters. See, I've made a pile over here of the monster tokens. So I draw these 2 monster tokens, and they may be they may be monsters, or they may be other things. Let's see if I can find, like here's a giant boulder that will come crashing down. Now, where do you put these monsters? Well, it's easy enough. We roll a die. So Melody rolls a die, and this orc comes on number 5, and so number 5, if we look on the board, is right here. So he starts in the forest on number 5, and then we'll roll for the troll. The troll comes in at number 1. Number 1's over here, and so he starts in the red forest. And then it's Melody's turn. Now, most of the monsters have moved up into the knights. I knew that was going to happen, so I traded her a knight's card so she can attack at least 1 of them. And so this is the way the game is going to work. We're going to continually attack these monsters. Now, the problem is, once the monsters get up here, if they move forward, they're going to break through the wall. Now, when a monster breaks through a wall, they lose a hit point. So they're probably going to die unless they're these evil trolls who come in and they lose a hit point, but they're still alive. Once they're inside here, they're going to walk around the middle trashing towers until they're either dead or until all our towers are gone. Once all our towers are gone, then we lose. Giant boulders are not monsters, but when they come, it comes on one side of the board and rolls all the way through till it hits a wall and destroys that wall, but it also kills every monster. And in fact, you can have some funny situations where there's no towers and no walls, and the boulder will come and roll through one side of the castle and roll out the other side, killing all the monsters in the way. There's also special monsters you can get. For example, here's the Troll Mage and the Goblin King, and when these guys come out, they bring other monsters with them, and sometimes special abilities. And sometimes, for example, this just makes green monsters move an extra space. Or there are monsters or there are tiles that when you pull them, for example here, Plague, all players lose all archers from their hand. This will continue until the deck runs out, we reshuffle, and we keep going until we've either gotten rid of all the monsters or until they've destroyed all the parts of the tower token. When that's done, players will count points for all the monsters that they have killed, and the player who has killed the most is the Master Slayer and wins the game. To me, that's kind of a cheesy way to end it. It's more fun just to cooperatively win together or cooperatively lose, and that is a variant in the rules, and that's just basically the way that I play. Things about the game.
Brick and mortar can make one broken wall.
Right, so if a wall's been destroyed and you have a brick and a mortar card, you can build the wall. There's also a card that lets you basically fortify a wall, putting a piece on it that will hold it up into place.
There's drive and back, where you can move one monster back into the forest.
Right, so you can push a monster back. There are special cards that let you do different things in the board. There's one card that lets you just kill a monster straight and just you hit the monster and he's dead. Doesn't matter how many hit points he has. But when do you use cards like that? And so you have to work together and say, okay, I'm going to give you swordsman cards because the monsters are going to be in that ring on your turn. And it's a lot of fun. The artwork is really good. Kids understand the fact that the monsters are marching in and you have to fight them back. What are your opinion? What do you think of the game?
It's really fun because you're fighting monsters. And it is a very imaginating game.
Is it hard to play?
A little.
It doesn't seem hard in the beginning. In the beginning you kill some monsters and it seems pretty easy, but when you draw, like, let's say the Goblin King or the Troll Mage and stuff, all of a sudden a pile of monsters get on the board, and if a monster does get inside your castle, they will do a lot of damage. There are very few cards that you can attack them once you're in your castle. This is a very much long-range game. Hit them before they get into your castle. I like it. It's not necessarily a game that I would play too much with maybe a die-hard gaming group, but it is definitely a good family cooperative game.
Thanks for joining us today. For more written, audio, and video reviews, as well as the #1 board game podcast, check out the website at www.thedicetower.com. Until then, this is Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.